Hello, everyone. James here from Wakelet. I just want to wish you all a great day and welcome to the first keynote of Wakelet Community Week. This is the changing face of education by the amazing Craig Kemp, who we'll hear from shortly. And before we do, I just want to remind you, this is an entire week dedicated to you. So there's other keynote sessions you can attend, as well as Wakelet sessions to learn a bit more about Wakelet, as well as mindfulness sessions, speed networking, and of course, we have an amazing competition going on as well. So anything that you really like, any moments that you want to capture, screenshot, grab from Craig's sessions or others, use that hashtag you see on screen there, hashtag Wakelet Community Week, and share your favorite moments with us at Wakelet on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, wherever. And also, I know a lot of people will ask about this. Certificates will be provided via a link that you must fill out at the end of the session. So towards the end, at the outro, we'll drop that in the description and the chat, and you can go ahead and fill it out there. I can see there's a lot of people in the chat already joining from all over the world, which is incredible to see. I can see North Macedonia there, India, Egypt's in the house, Morocco. We've got people from the United States as well, waking up early, Mexico City, Philippines, South Africa, Croatia, literally everywhere across the world. So again, welcome everyone to the first keynote of Wakelet Community Week. As I said, this is the changing face of education with the amazing Craig Kemp. And when we first put this week on, we really wanted to do a session around this because change, I believe, has been the word everyone's lips. Everything's changed in the last year or so in our lives, but also in education as well. We've changed the way we've taught our students. We've even changed the way we learn ourselves, changed the way we've communicated with others too. So we've invited Craig here to speak about how education and life has changed over the past year or so. And he's going to share some tips on kind of what we've learned, what we'll take from our learnings, and also what we'll not do from our learnings this year as well. So welcome, Craig. The stage is yours. Please introduce yourself and have a great session.
James, thank you so much. It's an absolute pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me. And I wanted to start by a massive shout out. I'm loving looking out your window at the back of you there, James, actually, because I'm sitting here in Singapore. It's 8 o'clock in the evening, and I wish it was sunny like that right now. It's dark, a little bit rainy, and I'm a little bit jealous. So I'm loving that beautiful Northern Hemisphere Europe summer coming in. So thanks for the introduction. I wanted to start actually with some shout outs. I'm seeing Ada here from Thailand. I'm just going through. I was doing a quick count while you were talking. More than 25 countries represented here already. Georgia from Greece, you from Malaysia, Uni from Tunisia, Trevor in Canada, Philip from Orlando, USA. The list goes on. Maha, Bangladesh, Malacca from Malaysia. It's massive, and I can't even keep up. So hello, Anna, Russia. It just keeps going. So hi to everyone. Thank you so much for being here today. Let's get underway. I'm super pumped about today, actually. So, let me share my screen and then let's go. So hopefully you can see my screen okay here. Let's get underway. So, I wanted to start by playing this video.
Once upon a time, business as usual was often good enough. No more. Where we are going, good enough is dead. In a world where everything is connected, where everything is equally excellent, where performance is reaching perfection, there's only one space left to innovate in: you. Right now, you are a central point in the raging tornado of change fueled by digitization, mobilization, augmentation, disintermediation, automation. Well, the list goes on. Science fiction is becoming science fact. Think about self-driving cars or computers that can learn and think. The way we work will never be the same. The skills we need will be dramatically different. Winning or losing are now happening faster than ever before. So what's your response? How will you discover new opportunities in one of the most transformational times in human history? Are you driving change, or are you being driven by it? Disruption has become the new normal. With change, it's always gradually, then suddenly, well, things really have stopped happening gradually. This change is exponential. Everything that used to be dumb and disconnected is now wired and intelligent. Cars, cities, ports, farms, even our bodies will be wired with sensors and will talk to each other. These game changers are also combinatorial. They amplify each other, creating a perfect storm of change. Quantum computing fuels big data. The Internet of Things fuels artificial intelligence and deep learning, which fuels robotics. However, anything that cannot be digitized or automated will become extremely valuable. Human-only traits such as creativity, imagination, intuition, emotion, and ethics will be even more important in the future, because machines are very good at simulating, but not at being. Yes, robots and software will do some of our work, but this will allow us to focus on things that cannot be automated. To imagine change squared, you've got to start engaging more with what might be, not just with what is. Immerse yourself in the immediate future, 5 to 7 years out from today. We need to go beyond technology and data to reach human insights and wisdom. Technology represents the how of change, but humans represent the why. The future is about holistic business model. The opportunity is to be liquid, to learn just in time, not just in case, not single improvements, but complete transformations, not individual systems, but new ecosystems. Humanity is where true and lasting value is created. We will engage, relate, and buy things because of the experiences they provide, because of their transformative power. The future doesn't just happen, the future gets happened. The new way to work is to embrace technology, but not to become it. The future is in technology, yet the bigger future lies in transcending it. Let's live and lead from here.
You know, when I think about change and I think about technology in the world that I live in, you know, I think about, you know, Gerd Leonhard is a futurist. He shares a lot of amazing things. You should check him out. But it's inspirational for me to think about, you know, the world that our kids are going to grow up in. How are we going to change this world of education? And I'm so thrilled when I look at that chat to see people from, you know, more than 30, 35, 40 countries from all over the world represented here today, whether it's morning, lunchtime, evening for you. It's an absolute pleasure to have you here. So let me tell you a little bit more about me. As you can tell by my thick accent, I'm originally from New Zealand. So any Australians listening in, please don't hold that against me. I won't talk too much about how good the All Blacks are for any rugby fans out there either. But I promise most of us are okay. You know, I'm originally from New Zealand. I'm a primary trained teacher. I've been in teaching and leadership for more than 15 years in educational settings in both public and private forms. So my wife and I moved to Singapore 9 years ago, and we moved here with the intention of being here for 2 years. And it's 9 years now. And, you know, I couldn't imagine our life any differently, to be living here, making some change and being able to connect and engage with an audience from all over the world. You know, the number 44,000 at the bottom represents the number of people I'm connected to on Twitter. And it's an absolute pleasure to see some of you here today as well. So if you're on Twitter, at Mr. Kemp NZ, tag me in, share it out, do whatever you want to do. I'll get back to you after this as well. I'd love to connect and engage with more people. And of course, any questions, anytime you ask me. I'm a previous EdTech director. So for the 4 years prior to starting up my own company, I worked in a large American international school here in Singapore as the technology and innovation director, supporting a school of 3,200 students, working with staff, students and parents to authentically and purposefully use technology. Now I own my own consultancy company, Ignite EdTech, and we work to support schools and EdTech companies all over the world to move from surviving to thriving. And we work with schools in one-to-one device rollouts, supporting strategy, you know, professional learning, you name it, we do it. And it's been an honor over the past 18 months to support people through the change that has been COVID. I wanted to very quickly, I'm going to talk a little bit about the why today, but I wanted to share my why, which is my family. And this is something I love to start with because these are the people in my life that make my life important. This is why I do what I do. This is why I want to create change, because the future is here on your screen. My kids, 3 and 7, the kids that I want to make sure that our future of education is better for, with the use of technology to enhance their lives, and their kids' lives. How can we make a difference now to support this? Because if I do say so myself, they're pretty damn cute and they have a massive future ahead of them. So, what has COVID done for us when it comes to educational technology? Thanks to COVID, our world has changed, out of this world different. We've come to this point 18 months ago where COVID started. And, as much as I don't like to talk about COVID, I want to talk about how far we've come, because we got thrown into the deep end. Singapore here, one of the first countries to be affected by cases of COVID. And, from that point on, we reacted in a positive way and made a change. We stomped it out. We fought hard and made sure that we followed rules. We wore our masks, we're vaccinating now, and we're doing all the right things to make a movement here, to be able to get to a position where we can truly make this change happen and get back to the way we always did things. And, that new normal is going to be very different. And one of the things I like is, as a teacher myself, that, when I was growing up and then I became a teacher and I taught for many years, my friends, my family didn't really realize how hard it is to be a teacher. They'd say to me, you work 9 till 3. You've got the best holidays in the world, and I always used to get so frustrated by that, and it used to make me angry. And then I realized that, I'm fighting something that I shouldn't fight. So what I actually did is I changed my mindset and I said, you know what? My job is pretty awesome. My job is great. And, if you want to join me, go and do 4 years of training and come and join the bandwagon of what I think is the most transformational role in human history. The one thing we can do to adapt and change our future leaders and learners and followers to be the best society that society can be. And, in this world with budgets dropping and learning opportunities adapting, PD options growing, you're here today because you're a change maker. You're a Wakelet fan, you're a learning fan, you're an education fan, you're a difference maker. You want to change the way you do things and improve yourself. So I'm preaching to the converted here a little bit, but as I work through today, I really want you to take the context that you're in and take my message. And if you take 1 or 2 things away from today and adapt it to your context, you're going to be better off. Share that with people around you. The power of multiplying this message is the way that we can make change. Share with people in your community the things that we talk about today. Help them understand the difference that they can make. My last point here is something that I'm really passionate about. What we've noticed is that we do have an inequitable access to devices. Not only that, but an inequitable access to learning. And that's something that we have to change. And I'm going to mention this a little bit later, but I'm in the development phase of a pretty big project that we're going to be launching in August. And we are going to change the face of professional learning forever. We're shaking up what the professional learning landscape is going to be. And we're going to make sure that educators all over the world are going to have access to this. The best of the best minds in a place where you can access them at a low cost on a community of practice that is changing this world. And I can't wait to share that with you. So definitely follow along with me over the coming weeks and months as I start to drip feed some things out there when we're ready to share as well. Over the past 18 months, I've worked fly in, fly out of countries all over the world. The 6 months leading up to our lockdown here in Singapore, I was in 12 different countries working with 30 different schools, supporting them in their strategy and development. And since then, I've done the same amount online, if not more, in a virtual setting. And these are the things that I've sort of categorized. I've been able to put people into 3 categories. Those teachers that thrived, the 5 to 10% of people, maybe you, that thrived during this time. You took risks, you tried new things, you used technology to your advantage, and you're the people that really took that to the next level. Then we had the 5 to 10% of us that gave up. And giving up's a little bit harsh, but that's the way I've sort of defined that group of people that have said, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. And, from a mental health and well-being perspective, from a, end of career perspective, from a capacity perspective, whatever it is. And, I salute those people. It's a hard job to say, look, I can't do this anymore. And being able to stand up and do that is tough. And, being a teacher has been just as tricky as any other profession, if not more tricky. And, I salute every single one of you. And I thank you for everything you've done for our youth, because this is a challenging time, something that, in 10, 20 years time, we're going to look back at and go, wow, that's a massive point in human history, and teachers made a world of difference. 80% of us survivors, we hung on, we clawed on, even at times when it was tough, we did our best to survive. And, this diagram sort of summarizes for me when people have a way of thinking, those teachers that we look at and they go, this is the way I've always done things. Why should I change? And people have been forced into that over the past few months. And, I love this diffusion of innovation model as well. And this diffusion of innovation model, which was first coined in the 1960s, actually, refers to the way we use technology to enhance learning experiences. So when we look at this, we have our innovators, the 3% of people in our school. And if you have more than that in your school, I want to come and work with you, because no school I have ever been in, ever set foot in, has no laggards. Laggards are the people that say no. Laggards are the people that say, this is the way I've always done things. Laggards are the people that say to you, I've been teaching for 20 years and my kids have been successful. Why should I change? Anything you throw at them, they'll push back on. And my first message to you is, you will have laggards in your life, personal or professional. My first step is always invest in the people that want to be invested in, your early adopters and your early majority. Invest your time first there. I'm not saying forget about the laggards, but if you invest 10% of your time in those laggards from the beginning, they will take away and they will zap 90% of your energy. Don't waste the amazing energy you have on them from the beginning. Get people on board, create a movement, and then let that journey flow down. The laggards will get on board or they'll jump off. And either way, it's the right thing for your context. And when I put this into the context of how do we move people? How do we change mindsets? This is something that I work with a lot of schools on. And I tried to make it as simple as possible here for the sake of the sharing. And it's, for me, it starts with build a team. This doesn't happen with individuals. It happens with a community, bringing people together, true Wakelet fashion. How do we bring people together into a space where we can help each other, we can grow each other, and we can support each other? So for me, they're the innovators, they're the early adopters. And together you build a plan, not just, one person or the innovators, but all the teachers, all of the community, all the leaders. Bring people in, lead professional development and professional learning by teachers, for teachers. If you're the tech expert in your school, don't be the person that stands in front and dictates learning. Get a teacher next door. The best growth I've seen is using what I call the teacher next door model. When you get someone who is a low level on that scale of adoption, learner, that can actually lead a session. And it doesn't have to be groundbreaking. But if they can see that person leading, they know that if Jenny can do it, I can do it. And it's that whole mindset thing. If we can create that confidence, let them move on. And that's what we want to do. And reward that growth. Share it. Focus on that majority next. Move those people into learning opportunities. And then get teachers teaching teachers. And as the cycle continues, we see results. And those results come in the form of data. Every person that's moving is a piece of data in this cog. And we continue to refine our practices to improve and bring people on board. And it doesn't happen overnight. When you hear the word technology in your life, you probably think of this, right? Or this, or even something like this, technology that is changing so dramatically every day that sometimes you think, how do I keep up? But we often forget about the best of technology that's ever been invented. And to me, everything around me is technology, the clothes I wear. But for me, the best piece of technology ever invented is a pencil and a piece of paper. It gives us the ability to communicate. If we're using technology as a simple replacement of a pencil and a paper, all we're doing is substituting. If you know Ruben Putindera's SAMR model, it's the lowest level of a SAMR model, the ability to substitute a technology for something else without any significant change. What we want to do with technology is say to ourselves, why? Why am I using that tool? Is it making a difference? And is it doing something that I couldn't do without technology? And if your answer is no, don't do it. 100%. I'm the technology guy. I've been that guy in schools for so long. But some of the best lessons I've seen don't involve technology. Just because we're moving in this world of technology doesn't mean that we have to use a device all the time. Pick the right tool for the right job at the right time, because the technology is important, but it's not the answer. We live in this world where we're obsessed by technology. We want to use technology. But at the end of the day, the technology actually adds more stress to our lives unless it's there to solve a problem. And one of the biggest things I've seen in the work that I do is that the poor strategic development leads to poor tech use in your school. The whole idea actually of developing a successful strategic plan builds from culture. And I love the saying that culture eats strategy for breakfast. And if you can't develop a culture in your school where people want to change, grow, move, develop, learn, you're never going to have a strategic plan that's sustainable, because the reality is that technology is not slowing down. Your school is unique, but technology is going to continue to develop at a rate that we've never seen before. So if you don't keep up, you will be left behind. And we have to choose the right tools to suit the purpose. And, I love, developing these sorts of ideas when I work with schools. And this is something that I developed recently with a schools group in Malaysia. And we were talking about, first and foremost, know your why. Simon Sinek says people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. If you don't know your why, no one's going to join you on this journey. If you can't identify your problems and find general solutions for those problems, no one's going to be interested in jumping on board. Build capacity in people. The most important resource in your building are the people in your building. And if you don't ask them what they want, what they need, what's worked, what hasn't worked, you don't build trust, you don't build culture, you can't build strategy. And if you want to build successful strategic plan when you get there, you do it together. So on that note, I want you to think to yourself, how will you adapt and change? And I want you to think about this while I share this story. And it's something that I used to do every year. I used to go into classrooms and I'd throw down these floppy disks and I'd put them on the table and I'd say to the kids, and these are normally grade 5, transitioning to grade 6, sort of elementary into middle school. And I'd say to them, what do you think this is? And always the kids would look at it, they'd throw their hands up, they'd shout out, Mr. Kim, I know what it is. And, I remember this one time, this girl, adamant, I put them on the table and I just said, what do you think this is? Because we were talking about change and technology and the ability to use it to harness, the best that we can do. And this girl was adamant, waving her hand at me, Mr. Kim, I know. And I said, okay, let's let everyone have a think. She was one of those kids, and you have these in your classroom too, one of those kids that was always first to jump at something, always wanted to have her voice heard. And I actually knew in the back of my mind, and it's kind of sinister in a way, but I knew in the back of my mind, I don't think she knows what I'm going to do here, but let's just play with it because it's going to be quite funny. And I said, right, go for it. What do you think this is? And she shared with the people around her, and they're like, yeah, this is definitely what it is. And she looked with a smug smile on her face, and she looked at me and goes, Mr. Kemp, this is easy. This is a 3D printed version of the save icon. To her and the people in the class, these kids, they knew nothing of what existed before technology. The first generation to not know what it was like before technology existed. The first thing that came to her head was a 3D printed version of the save icon. And we get into a discussion, this is what we lived by. This went into my Commodore 64 or my Amiga, so I could type up a word processing document, and I could store on this disk that's this size 1.44 megabytes of data. Isn't that huge? And then they'd look at me and they'd have no idea. And I go, you know what? Here's my iPhone. If I take a photo of us right now, that photo would not fit on this disk. That's how far we've come in 15 or 20 years. Now on a file the size of my fingernail, I can fit multiple full-length movies. I can fit my entire computer hard drive, as much as I want to fit on a thumb drive the size of my nail. Imagine what it's going to be in 10 to 20 years time from now, and it blows their mind. So it's a really important thing for us to think about, because as we move into this world where technology changes so quickly, we also get caught in this loop of consumption. There's so many things that allow us to consume more and more and more. Netflix, YouTube, all of the stuff is thrown at us. All of these tech tools, consume. And we forget about, the World Economic Forum's Future of Jobs report, which I'll highlight soon. And they say, one of the most important skills is creation, the ability to create, to make, to create data, to create new things, and that whole problem-solving cycle. So I challenge you, when you look and you analyze your learning experience, how much of those learning experiences are consumption-based and how much of it is creation-based? And what can you do to change that? Whether you're dictated by a national curriculum or not, what can you do to change that? You have creative control. Use it. The curriculum is one thing. Your delivery is another. You can deliver how you want. Push boundaries. If there's ever a time to push boundaries, it's now. Do it. Make a change. Make a stance. Let's try and shake up the way we do things. And I'm using some graphics here from Apple because I love the way they think about learning experiences. They say every learner is a creator. And as teachers, we design these conditions for creators. It's our job to do that. And Seymour Papert says the role of the teacher is to create the conditions for invention rather than to provide ready-made knowledge. And I think often as teachers, we get stuck in this excuse that we have no time to do this. And to me, I've been there, I've done that. It's too much of an easy cop-out to say I don't have time to create authentic learning experiences for my students. If you don't have time, plan nothing and let your students take the lead. I can promise you that learning activity will be 100% better than something where they're just rote learning. And don't get me wrong, there's times for rote learning, but we need to think in this complex way. And this is what I referred to before. Every year or so, the World Economic Forum produces their Future of Jobs report. And this came out in December of 2020. And these were the top 10 skills that our learners will need to be successful and to thrive in 2025, as far into the future as they can predict. This is based on years of research. Actually, this is based on research before COVID. So I'm super curious to see, hopefully at the end of this year, what comes out of the next World Economic Forum Future of Jobs report. I really am. And, when I look at this, the first thing that springs to my mind is that 50% of these skills are problem-solving skills. And then I ask myself, and I want you to ask yourself this question: how many of these 10 skills do you explicitly teach? Do you explicitly teach? How do you teach these skills to our kids so they know what they are? They know how to use them. They know the why behind them. Give yourself 30 seconds here. Let's stop. 30 seconds. Count up how many of these skills you explicitly teach to your learners, whether you're a teacher, a leader, you're in higher ed, wherever you are. How many do you explicitly teach? Throw them in the comments section. Put it out there, on a fist to 5 scale. And I refer to this as a fist, none, to 5, all 10. Where are you? Fist to 5. A tool that allows you to share these skills. And if you didn't see the graphic, just Google search World Economic Forum Future of Jobs Report 2020, and you'll see this come up. And you can delve into other data and information there too. But on a fist to 5 scale, in the chat, share where you are. It'd be really interesting to see where we are based on geography or where we are based on what we teach. So share some of that in there as well. And I'd love for you to comment on each other's and truly engage and follow each other there as well. So I wanted to move this conversation into a couple of things here. And I often, as a director of technology in a school, one of the things that I get asked a lot is screen time. One of the biggest concerns from parents is screen time. Unfortunately, it's not. Where are the problem-solving skills? Where are the critical thinking skills? Where's the creativity? How are you using technology to monitor control? Where are you teaching resilience, problem-solving? I wish those were the questions from parents, but our parents are not being upskilled in our schools. We need to move them away from this other stuff into these skills. How do we teach them what's important? Because the data shows us. This comes from, the source that I feel is the most relevant and most research, the American Academy of Pediatrics, that, they say that for some kids, 2 hours of screen time may be too much, but the most important thing is quality over quantity. From the age of 6, they say to parents, you know your kids best. Stop letting them rule your roost. Tell them when enough is enough. If you feel that it's not right and in your gut it doesn't work, then get them off the screens. You're the adult, you're the parent. And I love pushing this back to parents too. I love saying, unless your kid is under the age of 2, then you need to limit down to 1 hour. If they're over the age of 5, then you be the parent. You decide how much is enough. You decide if you want them on YouTube all hours of the day and night, because there's no evidence that shows that it's going to have a detrimental effect. Yes, there's some around mental health and well-being, and I'm not going to go into that data now because that's kind of contentious in a way, because there is a lot of stuff out there, and I encourage you to look up that research. But from one perspective, when a parent comes at you and says, stop my child using their device, push it back on them. Teach them how to do this right. And they will need some education. They will need your support. And tools like Common Sense Media are great tools to use in that space. And I wanted to highlight one other study, something that struck my mind a couple of months ago when this came up. Researchers from the University of Oxford examined data on more than 300,000 adolescents in the US and the UK to ascertain the impact that various factors had on well-being. And they actually attributed just 0.4% of well-being to the use of technology. Just 0.4% of well-being. When you look at this and you compare it, eating potatoes has more of a negative effect on well-being than technology does. And this is one study, remember. So I'm not saying that this is the only way, but this is a study that made me go, wow. And I'm not saying that technology doesn't attribute to teenage mental health, because it clearly does. And we do have a problem with that in our schools, with cyberbullying and safety, and the list goes on. And that can be seen in teenage suicide rates globally. But, when we look at the experts, bring in the experts, bring in people to your schools that can help you with this. And there's a myriad of people out there that can do that. If you need some people, ask. I can connect you to amazing people doing amazing things in this field. One of the tools that I've been exploring lately is Clanbeat in the well-being space. CLANBEAT, Clanbeat. Check it out. They're doing incredible things in the space of well-being and supporting teenagers and learners and educators in the space of well-being. Clanbeat is something that check out, jump on board, trial it for free, incredible resource. And I mentioned this before, that ties all of this stuff together. Simon Sinek says people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And this comes from his book, Start With the Why. He says at the epicenter of everything we do, why is the most critical word we can bring up. And I've adopted this mindset now for many years, both in my personal and private and professional lives. And, the first thing I do, when my daughter is having a tantrum, I think to myself, why? Why is she doing that? How can I solve the problem? And actually, what can I do? I work through this process. If I'm in a classroom and a child is struggling with a new math strategy I have introduced, I think, why? Why are they struggling? Is it that they can't comprehend the concept? Can I bring in some tools to support that? That's the how. And then what can I do? I can step them through it. There's all these things that we can think of, whether it's minute like that or it's a bigger concept like why use iPads in my school. These bigger concepts as well. But, when I say to teachers, and I'll go back to the pencil and paper being the best technology ever used, when I see people using technology for the sake of technology, I shake my head. Use technology only if it makes a difference and adds value to learning. If that's the only message you take from today, make sure that's the one. Because, and I mentioned this earlier as well, one of my favorite pieces of pedagogy here to help us understand how and why we use technology is the SAMR model. And you can look up the SAMR model, which was developed by Ruben Putindera, and you can look this up later and do a bit of research into it. But it's a great way of thinking to help us define how we use technology. And he always says, this isn't a ladder. We don't work ourselves up the SAMR model. We use this as a way of thinking. When we go to introduce a tool or create a learning experience using technology, we think to ourselves, does this enhance the learning experience? Does it transform the learning experience? A learning experience can still be amazing at the substitution level, just as much as it can be at a redefinition level. But if we truly want to transform learning experiences, we have to modify and redefine experiences so that they were previously inconceivable, right? Doing things that you couldn't do without technology. So we look at technologies like augmented reality. An amazing company that's doing things with augmented reality at the moment is Hologo World, Hologo, Hologo World. Look them up, download their app for free. Incredible things coming from them. I've seen a taster of it. I use it with my own kids. It's a game changer in the form of education with augmented reality. But that redefines the experience. I can't do that. I can't bring a dinosaur into my room at the touch of a button with any other form of technology. So it's an incredible transformation. But I'm not saying you have to do that. A redefinition, let's talk through an example. My children are writing in a textbook. A substitution would be they use Google Docs. An augmentation would be that they start using some editing tools in Google Docs that augments the experience. It allows them to edit functionality, allows them to check grammar and spelling. We can modify that experience by actually redefining the task and saying, well, we're going to add in some peer assessment here into this Google Doc, and we can redefine it with tools like Mote that allow for audio feedback, etc. on top of this. So this whole process becomes really easy when we use this as a guide. And I'm more than happy to share more about this with you if you have questions on this later as well. And it brings me into the concept of learning to unlearn and relearn. And in this time of constant change, this skill is critical. We're at a juncture now where we're a generation that has learned all of these skills, and now we're at the time where we need to unlearn them. Not just teachers, but parents as well. Everyone has to unlearn so we can relearn for what comes next, because mistakes are okay. But the most important thing here is, as a leader of a school, how can you embrace it? As a learner leading in a school, how can you embrace it? It starts with you. What do you need to unlearn so you can relearn? Because as Alvin Toffler says, the illiterate of the 21st century are not those who cannot read and write, but those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. So for me, it's about building capacity in yourself, staying relevant, understanding what's current in education. And I've shared some of those things with you today already. I shared about ClanBeat and Hologo and Mote and some of these other tools, And to me, honestly, I wouldn't be here if I didn't believe that Wakelet wasn't an educational trend, something that transforms and redefines learning. It's an experience that's like no other. It allows us to create these amazing learning experiences. And for me, the second point in building capacity is seeking opportunities. And again, I'm preaching to the converted. You're here because you want to be here. It's the people around you that you need to help. How do you create opportunities for yourself and for others to try new things? And then how do you build a professional learning network? I shared at the start. My PLN of choice, my professional learning network of choice, was Twitter. I'm connected with 45,000 educators from all over the world, and hopefully more today. I love building my network. I encourage you to jump on there, follow other people as well. Follow the people that I share and I connect with, because that's what this is all about: connecting, engaging, and learning. And then, of course, what comes next, in my mind, is closing that loop by sharing. How do you create content, not just consume it, and then share it back? Because everyone has a story to tell. I always tell a story of this 62-year-old lady that used to be in my old school, and she'd come to me and say, Craig, I can't use technology. And I'd say, yes, you can. And then she'd use it and be blown away by it. And then I'd say to her, you should be blogging. And she started blogging and sharing her story. Everyone has a story to tell and everyone has an audience. So if you think that you don't have something to share, you're wrong. Get out there, share it, do it. People are going to love to hear from you, because at the end of the day, no one's going to hand this to you on a silver platter. It starts with you. I wanted to share a very quick case study at my old school, Stanford American, an amazing large international school, an IB curriculum, US Common Core standard school here in Singapore. We created amazing professional learning opportunities for our people. We helped build capacity. If we wanted to change, create innovation, it started with these change makers. Then it went on to our students, our learners. The ability to innovate starts with us as teachers, to guide those experiences, to give them the things that they can be at the forefront of. We partnered with a company called Lightyear to help build an app. The former creators of Angry Birds, they came over and they helped design with the kids from an alpha and beta stage. We seeked out that opportunity and created it. And we gave our student leaders, which we called our tech experts, our technology experts, to lead. And you can see them here leading with some of the leaders of our school. So we created those experiences and opportunities. If you don't create it, nothing happens, and we create this timeline. And I'm going to skip over this a little bit, but we established a K-12 vision. And in that vision, we said, we want to be a school where we possess a culture where everyone thrives in a constantly evolving landscape. Nowhere in here do we say technology. Nowhere in here do we say that you have to use tech to build that culture and change the way you do things. But this creates a movement. It allowed us to shift that focus from consumption to creation. And it allowed us to develop a model that worked for us. And this is where our model came from. Our job as coaches, as EdTech leaders in our school, was to do these 4 things: provide curriculum support, utilize our human resources so we can be sustainable, develop skill sets and build capacity, not just from teachers, but students and community as well, and then empower the community by enhancing those experiences. And what we invested in actually was people. We didn't invest in tools, we invested in people. Human resources wins every time, 100%. So we grew our team and our model came to life. We created this idea of EdTech champions, not just the 5 of us in the middle, but the people in every year group, every department of our school. Every one of these letters represents a department, a grade level. People in our school that are influenced by the teacher next door model, by people being able to share. Start with a small group and build over time. And if you want to learn more, I can share some articles and more information about this model that we developed as well. I'm more than happy to do that. And we created these 4 responsibilities. If you're a digital learning champion, you have to do 4 things. 1, be a champion. Shout it out from the rooftop. Listen to people first and foremost. Be willing to learn yourself. Be an active collaborator and a sharer. And then be an effective integrator. Help us integrate things into the curriculum and help build capacity in other people. And then we establish non-negotiables. And this is something that I encourage you to do in your school as well. Establishing non-negotiables creates a level of expectation. This is the way we do things at our school. We are a technology-rich school. Whether we have devices or not, this is what we believe. So the first thing we believe, that digital citizenship is the most important thing that we can promote. Not just digital citizenship, but digital wellness. The ability to actually be a digital citizen. And this was driven by Heather Bernard in our school. And you can find her on Twitter at TechStarTeacher. TechStarTeacher. She's doing amazing things in the form of digital wellness and digital learning and wellbeing. And I encourage you to check her out. But we onboarded 373 teachers as common sense educators. We became a common sense school. And we didn't just tick a box, but we integrated this into our curriculum. We took a deep dive for a full year on one concept. Then we said, every one of our teachers, we use Apple devices in a 1-to-1 program. You need to become an Apple teacher. We need a minimum expectation of skill level. And that now is something that when hiring, they say, right, are you an Apple teacher? Do you know how to use Apple technology? Because if you don't, before you start here, you need to upskill yourself, because we don't have time to go back and make sure that you can do the basics of this. So when you're entering a school, ask questions about this. If a school like this is saying, you need to be an Apple teacher, I look at them and go, wow, they're setting the bar high and I want to be a part of that. So, think to yourself, ask these questions when you're going in, because at the end of the day, if you're empowering teachers, that empowers students, and that's at the heart of everything we do. And, as I come towards the end here, and open up to Q&A and open up to your questions. So please do throw some questions there as well, because we're going to have some time for them. But I encourage you to check out my podcast. Now, this is a shameless plug, but I used to blog. At my website, mrkempnz.com, for many years. And then I realized that I hate writing. It didn't sit well with me. But boy, can I talk. And I'm talking pretty quick here today because when I get excited, I talk fast and my accent sometimes doesn't help. So hopefully on a recorded version, we can add some subtitles so you can follow along. But and we'll make sure these slides are available to you as well. But I now host a podcast, and every Thursday evening, Northern Hemisphere time, every Friday morning, Southern Hemisphere time, a new episode is dropped. It's called the Ignite EdTech podcast, and you will find it in your podcast channel of choice. And I think the Wakelet team will be sharing in the comments bar there the link where you can find this, which is a Linktree link. It links to all of my social channels. It links to my podcast. You can find it. Search for the Ignite EdTech podcast, and I look forward to having you as a listener. It's my way of giving back, my way of sharing for free every week a 20 to 30 minute episode about my thoughts on technology, my favorite tools. I chat with some of my favorite educators from all over the world. I share my ideas, my tips, my advice, and then I give away prizes for listening and following. So jump on board, have a listen. I'd love to have you on board as part of a learning journey that we're on as well. And I wanted to finish today with this, which for me sums up what we are as a generation, what we need to remember. We are the last generation to understand life before the internet. The last generation to understand life before a smartphone. The last generation to understand how to truly connect without the use of social media. Think about this. The last generation. Our kids, my kids, don't know what it was like before technology. We are the last generation to be that fluent translators of what it was like before technology and now what it's like after technology. Our kids do not understand that. They haven't lived that life, and I'm guilty of this. But to wonder each morning what I should do instead of wondering what you missed as you pick up your phone and you look at your notifications. So I challenge you here today. How can you help yourself and help others around you? How can you plan with the future in mind? How can you use these ideas and concepts? And I've thrown a lot at you today. But first and foremost, know your why. Why do you do what you do? Why do you want to use technology? Why do you want to make a change? And if you can't answer that, don't do it. I ask people, and this may be something that you go away and do, and I ask you this: go away and think about what your elevator pitch is. An elevator pitch is 30 seconds to a minute. You jump in the lift or the elevator at the ground floor, and you've got to make your way to the 8th floor. And on that way, a parent walks in, and a parent says to you, why do you have iPads in your school? Or it's the director of the school, and the director says, how do you use technology in your classroom? Why do you use technology in your classroom? Or, a colleague walks in and says the same thing, or the owner of the school. If you can't justify that in 30 seconds or less, you're not using technology well enough. You're not using it in the right way. You're not thinking about your why. So go away and think about what your elevator pitch is. Challenge your colleagues to this as well. It's a great activity to see if you're on the same page. And the reality is, if you don't stay up to date, you will be left behind. Technology is changing at a pace that we've never seen before. And we can no longer keep that in our distant past, or look at it at our periphery. It is here and it is not going anywhere. This is how to connect with me. I love doing this. The thing I struggle with here in this space is that I can't see your comments very well. So I don't know what you're saying. I don't know if you hate me. I don't know if you can't hear me. But, I love to share and I love to help. And if you need help, you want to connect, you want my support in any way, any shape, in any form, and if you know me well, I'm here to help you. Connect with me on Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, on my website, igniteedtech.com. If you have a question, I will answer it. I really will. I'll go out of my way to make sure I can help you. And, if you're following me on Twitter or sharing things out there now, I'll get back to you immediately following this. I will jump on. I'm a little bit addicted to the use of technology myself, but I love it. It truly transforms my learning experience. So let's answer some questions. Let me stop sharing my screen here and come back in here very quickly. I want to be able to answer questions. So if you've got questions, throw it in the chat. I'm just going to shout out to a couple of people before we answer questions. I can see some stuff here. Thank you, Janice, Philip. Where are we looking here? Zach, I love it. Thank you so much for sharing back. Janice, I appreciate it there as well. So many people sharing stuff here. Samita, we've connected before, and I'm so stoked to see you here as well. Yukok, thank you so much. I appreciate that. James, questions? Do we have any? Oh, you're on mute, James.
Oh,
sorry.
I'm on mute. Yep, you hear me? Awesome. I was saying it's absolutely amazing, that session. It's a shame we couldn't see the comments throughout because so many people were quoting what you said, the different practices you were sharing as well. And towards the end, you can see now everyone's saying how much they loved it. It's a real eye-opener for some. And also, I think just reassured people on the stuff they're doing in their school is the right thing currently. So thank you so much for that, Craig. Personally, I liked all the stuff you're saying about humans being at the forefront. That's exactly what we stand for here at Wakelet, all about putting the human at the kind of center of the internet, organizing the internet there, but also in terms of community as well. We at Wakelet learn from people. Our community started with 40 people that we learned from, and it's evolved over time to thousands of people that attend these webinars. So it works exactly the same in schools. We learn from teachers, and teachers learn from teachers as well, and then we'll pass it on to students. So I absolutely loved the whole session there, Craig. Thank you so much. One question that did come through, which I think was on a lot of people's minds, was when you're talking about those laggards, those people who may refuse to change in education, even in the remote learning standpoint, how would you deal with them when going back to school in, say, the new school year?
Yeah, great question. You get this all the time. Every school has laggards, and I think that these laggards will exist no matter what. They're going to be there, and it doesn't mean that a laggard is negative. It means a laggard has a voice, and I actually quite like that. And my favorite people to work with in a school are actually these laggards. I really do, and I feel that the thing that you can do to embrace them in the new school year is empower them. Truly create an environment where there's that teacher to teacher culture, where the teacher next door model. Open up your classrooms, let people see, let people share, build confidence, one small step at a time. Start small, but think big. The whole idea of bringing on board people is that those small steps, that moderation of learning. So if you want laggards to come on board, you need the step above that, the late adopters. You need them to be the ones sharing. So for me, it's that teacher to teacher sharing model. And I got a whole bunch of ideas if people want them to, classroom walkthroughs. We used to call them techie brekkies, where we'd put on breakfast and allow people to come in and do some things, lunchtime sessions, you name it.
Yeah, I think that's a great thing that there are people out there. I saw a few comments saying we are not alone, and 100% we are not. As you said, we've kind of preached into the converted. These are tech enthusiasts here who are pushing tech and trying to evolve in education and in life. But yeah, you're not alone. You may feel like that sometimes in your school. I speak with a lot of community members who feel like they're the only ones pushing. But as Craig's saying there, there's always someone who may be open to it that you can get on board and allow them and empower them to teach others as well. And if you still feel like that, there is a budding community in EdTech genuinely. So with Wakelet community here, feel free to connect with Craig, the other speakers, the people who are in the comments, and feel free to share your knowledge and learn from each other as well. One thing I loved, Michael Harvey's comment there I put on screen, what's the most important thing in the world? People, the people, the people, 100%. And one last question, Craig, that's okay. is with all of this, where do you see parents fitting in with this kind of change and transformation in EdTech for their children?
Yeah, great question. I mentioned this a little bit in there, but I probably didn't go into much detail on it. But one of the most powerful things you can do is empower your community. So put not just teachers in front of your parents, but put kids in front of your parents. One of our most popular sessions that we used to run at our school was when we put our middle school kids in front of our parents, where they could ask them anything. Ask me anything about technology. We brought up the tough topics to talk about. We brought up all of these things that no one wanted to touch and facilitate. But when we empowered kids to do it, they are more than happy to. Our only rule, if your child says to you, you're not allowed to come to my table, as a parent, you're not allowed to go there. So that we respect their privacy. They were answering things like, talking about sex, talking about bullying, talking about the workload that they've got. And they had this power to help parents realize this need for upskilling. And what we did was not only that, but we ran regular sessions. We taught them the things that they needed to know. We taught them the pedagogy, and we put it into layman's terms. We helped them understand how basic this is, that if you don't keep up, you're going to be left behind. This world is vastly different from what we were before. We actually taught them as if we taught our kids. We really did. We said to them, you want to learn how to use a device? Come on in. We'll teach you how to use the device, as if you're one of our grade 1 students. And they loved it. So, it's this whole mindset change in schools that parents are there to only, tell you what's wrong. If you gave parents the opportunity, they'll jump at it. They honestly will. They'll be in there and they'll help you. And it takes time. And it's all about making sure that you create those opportunities. You don't just say they're not going to do it without trying.
Yeah, I've seen that a lot as well with speaking to teachers across the world. People think of community or learning communities as maybe just the teachers, maybe the students and the other members of staff. But yeah, the parents are a key role in there, and you get them on board. I think that's what it is. It's all about bringing people into that community, making them feel like they're a part of it, and everyone can learn from each other, whether it is in the tech sense or even for any topic. People are experts in their own fields, and we're better together when we pass across those pieces of information and continue learning. Really, I saw a comment before saying that it's always best when teachers carry on their learning. That's how your students will always carry on learning as well. So yeah, absolutely incredible. Thank you so much, Craig. I think that's it there. Is there anything else you'd like to share, Craig, at the end of this session?
No, honestly, James, I just want to say thank you to you and the team at Wakelet for providing this opportunity to not just me to share my voice, but also to the community to come together. Because, a big part of what I do and why I connect online is this idea of empowering and engaging and collaborating. And it's truly amazing to read through some of these comments now and see people from all over the world collaborating and connecting here. So, please stay in touch. I mentioned one of these big projects that I'm working on that's coming out very soon. Watch this space. We'll be launching our new professional learning network, our professional learning community, a place to come to learn, develop, and grow in about 2 weeks' time. So watch this space, follow along, and I look forward to sharing it very soon.
Yeah, we'll be looking out for that. Again, Craig, thank you so much for that. I've seen, have a look in the comments after this as well. Admin's there saying he had his almost eureka moments. Yes. So he's very excited. I feel like you've given a lot of inspiration to people today with tech and kind of what's changed as well. So thank you so much, Craig, for joining us. We really appreciate it. As we wrap up, everyone, I will drop in the certificate link for you all to fill in. So open that Google Forms up, click onto it, fill in your name and email, and you'll have a certificate of attendance sent directly towards you, your email as well. With all of this as well, I've seen a lot of people share their quotes, screenshots of Craig and his slides. Anything that you learned today, please do share them on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook with us using that hashtag Wakelet Community Week and at Wakelet. And remember to tag Craig as well, which is Mr. Kemp NZ on Twitter too. So yeah, lovely session. Thank you so much, Craig, again. From the chat, I can see a lot of people find it beneficial and useful. So again, everyone at home, thank you so much for joining in, tuning in this session for the week. Remember, there are tons of sessions to join also. I think we've got around 5 left today and around 20 left for the rest of the week as well. There are keynotes from people just like Craig and also from our ambassadors doing the Wakelet sessions also. So again, Craig, massive thank you for joining. Everyone in the chat, huge thank you. And we'll see you all in the sessions to follow. Bye, everyone.
Thanks everyone. Bye.